Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear? You can hear me? Okay, good. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this video. It's a short video. It's about a memory from my past, and I want to share it because as you get older, it gets harder to remember things, and a lot of my memories from this time are a little hazy. But one thing that's not hazy about this time is prayer, and that the power of prayer is real. Now, I'm not particularly religious now, but I grew up very Christian as a child, and we learned to pray about everything every day. And there are two moments in my life where I would swear that prayer worked, that it came through, that God sent his angels to, make it happen. One of those times you could probably explain by science, and the other one could possibly be a coincidence. But for me, when I was growing up, they were very real reasons of why and how prayer works. The first one, the one that science could probably explain, would be when I was a child, my brother and I, we found out my mom was pregnant, and when we did, we prayed every day for our baby sister. And that's what we got. We got a little sister. Unfortunately for my brother, though, that would be the birth of his arch nemesis for all of his childhood. Him and my sister hate each other. They were at war all the time. And it was for me, it was annoying because I always had to step in and stop it. But, they love each other now. But that was one example of the power of prayer coming through. The other one is what this video is about. My video from the memory from 35 years ago. So I think it's 35. I'm not entirely. It could be 36, 34. But anyway, I believe it was the Christmas of '91. And my dad had got me a Game Boy for Christmas. And this was awesome. It was a portable Nintendo. This is great. And so obviously when Christmas break was over, I'm taking my portable Nintendo with me to school, which was the dumbest thing I could have done at the time. Because obviously when I got in the bus and I was sitting next to my buddy that I always hung out with, and I showed him my Game Boy, and he was like, oh, that's neat. And then he wanted to show his friend. And so what ended up happening was it just ended up passing hands. It just kept going all over the bus. And before I knew it, I didn't know where this Game Boy was. So when I got off the bus, I stood there waiting for one of these kids to give me my Game Boy back. But of course, no one gave me my Game Boy back. So I told my friend, you need to find my Game Boy, dude. Because he knew a lot more of the other students than I did. And I was like, you have to find it. And of course, he didn't find it. Of course, he didn't. So now I'm in trouble. And he didn't know. He didn't know who my dad was. He didn't know that my dad was literally Darth Vader and a T-Rex at the same time. I mean, I'm serious. Like for me as a child, my dad was literally Darth Vader. And I was Luke Skywalker, and he was just like, he's going to beat my ass all the time. My dad was a brutal, evil man to be feared. And not, I say that jokingly. He was not evil, but he was a strict disciplinarian, and the belt was a real thing. That was his lightsaber. It came all the time. So you're like, well, what about the T-Rex? Right? What? Well, the T-Rex is because my dad, basically, you always heard him before you saw him. The best way I could describe this is like when you think about the Jurassic Park movie, and you saw the cup of water, and it would like ripple when the T-Rex stepped. That was my father. If my sister, my brother, and I were being obnoxious, loud, or unruly, there wouldn't be much. You would just kind of hear like my dad yell. It's the T-Rex roar. Just, roar. You don't know what he said, but he said something, and then you heard the stomping. He made sure you knew he was coming, and it was like, oh no, our butt cheeks are about to be obliterated. We're about to be blown into oblivion. No more butt cheeks. No more walking. It's just going to be over. So that's what happened. My friend didn't know that if I didn't get this Game Boy back and my dad found out I lost it, I would cease to exist. That's just what was going to happen. That was the reality. So I kept harassing him, like, dude, you got to find this. Because like at the time, my dad would ask me questions like, hey, man, where's your Game Boy? I would lie. I'd be like, oh, it's upstairs. Oh, I never see you play it. And I was like, oh, no, I have it. Oh, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure you're playing it and you enjoy it. Yeah, he just want to make sure that I was enjoying his Christmas present, Eventually, my friend would give me a broken Game Boy. Now, he said it was his broken Game Boy, but I have a feeling it was my broken Game Boy. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. But I took this thing as a placeholder, something that would distract my dad so that he would not know that, that I lost it. And I would just put, that way he could see it. Like, it was there. Oh, it's right there. It's still here. I mean, okay. Luckily, he never asked to play it. But there was a day. There's this thing my parents would do when we were kids, and that is they would do spring cleaning. I don't know if your parents did that, but that's what mine did. My parents would always, once a year, go into our room, rearrange, and clean everything. Dressers moving over here, TV's going over there now, beds are going this way, posters are moving around. Everything got cleaned up. Everything got rearranged and cleaned. And my dad was always kind of like a big kid. Like, that's just who he was. So on Christmas, he would play with our toys before we did. And I knew that while he was cleaning, that he would probably try to play the Game Boy. And this would be the end of my life, because he'd find out it's not working, and then he'd be like, what the hell did you do? And so they're in my room, and I'm freaking out. I go downstairs, and I pace back and forth through the hallway. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I sat on the stairs, and I prayed. I said, God, you have to save me. You have to save me from this epic ass whooping that's about to come upon my butt cheeks. That's just going to happen. I just know it. I just knew. So I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed. And then all of a sudden, there was this loud, repeating, banging noise. Just bang, 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 bang. And I was like, what the hell is that? So I stand up, and I run to the room where I hear this noise. And the room was like, there was like 2 living rooms. There was the big adult family living room, and then my parents gave us a small living room with the kid table, and that was our living room. And in that room, the ceiling fan had ripped off of the ceiling, but was still hanging on by the wires, and it was like still trying to spin, and it was hitting the ceiling, just bang, 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 and it was just like going over and over. And I remember going, Dad, you gotta come down. My dad was mad because I was yelling. He's like, what the hell's going on? He's like, what? He runs down the stairs, and he sees the ceiling fan, and he's like, okay. So that meant when he saw that, the spring cleaning was over, and my butt cheeks were saved another day. I was able to buy some time, or God sent his angel down to buy me some time. And somehow, I don't know what, I know I ended up getting a working Game Boy. And my friend, I want to say he gave me the working Game Boy back, or my Game Boy back. And he's like, well, you can just keep the broken one because I don't need it. And to be honest, I still have a Game Boy now, and I believe it's the broken one. I don't know what happened to the other one. I really don't remember. But all I know is I was able to eventually get a working one back. And then my dad didn't know that I had lost the Game Boy. And basically, like I said, God, maybe it was a massive coincidence, but for me, as a kid, as a 13-year-old boy, teenager, my life was saved. Sitting there on the stairs for just that brief moment, praying to God, please save me. And he did. And it did. And I got to live another day. So that's my short story. That's my little memory of when the Game Boy almost got me killed.